We've got Mike Patino on the phone with us today. His laptop crashed. But let me bring in our next guest, and I'm very happy to have Ken Bentley joining us. Ken, can you unmute? Can we hear your voice?
Did I mute this thing?
No, sir. You're good. You're good, Ken.
Oh,
So come on in.
okay. Morning. How are you?
Come on in. Good morning. And so, folks, Ken Bentley is our guest today on our segment of the human cost of war. We
Hmm.
constantly hear this thing about boots on the ground, boots on the ground, boots on the ground. Ken, first off, thank you so much for your service. And we really, really, really appreciate what you have done for us. So, Ken, I want to dive right in into the human cost of war. Okay. First off, let's hear a little bit about who you are, and can you give us a little bit of background of what you have done?
Well, I'm an I'm an old Marine for that
Okay.
matter. Um, but I served 9 years in the Marine Corps. My last tour of duty was in Desert Storm, Kuwait. Went through the oil fields, the whole 9 yards into, well, allegedly Iraq. Um, but served my country because it was the right thing to do. We always hear people um, always thank us for our service. And I talked to an old World War II veteran, and the one thing he taught me, which I thought was very eloquent, was when we hear thank you, we don't know how to respond to that because we're like, but we didn't do it for us. We don't do it for ourselves. And he goes, so what's your answer? And he goes, well, I thought long and hard. And he goes, well, my answer is I did it for you. And that's my response to a lot of people when I say that is we do it for the citizens, regardless of where we stand in politics or where we stand on the
Mhm.
rules or personal philosophies. We still have a job to do. We signed a contract saying, hey, this is what we want to do. Tigger, you got to lay down. But sorry, my cat's in here won't play.
Okay. So, Ken, when people hear the phrase boots on the ground, which is such a euphemism for sending, you know, our kids into battle for a cause that they may not believe in, what do you think they don't understand about what that phrase really means?
The human cost. A lot of people misunderstand that though we may not agree personally on a personal level what's going on, we have to follow orders. Just like, you go home to the missus and the missus goes, hey, I need you to do this, 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 and this. Well, what do? You do it. Why? Because you want to make her happy. Regardless, you still do it. You're like, I really don't want to do this, but we do it because we're told. We don't question it. We just say, fair enough. We're going to go do what we got to do. We're trained to do this. This is our job. Um, a lot of people have a lot of issues with the military service, and we're not a bunch of brutes. We're human beings. We're
Hmm.
put in situations where we have seconds to respond, just like the police department, just like a firefighter. We have the same things. There's the mental factor that goes on. I had to take a human life. How's that play in
Oh,
my head
boy.
for years?
So, Ken, I have our regular team over here. We got Brandon, who's joined us from this week. Mike Patino is on the phone. His laptop crashed, so you don't see his face. And Reed Bible is actually sick, so he's not joining us today. But we got Chris Hilbert, who joins us from Texas, and Dr. Sheila White is on, so you can see. And I'll see if they have some questions for you. But can you describe the moment it became real clear for you that you were in a war zone?
As soon as I hit the ground, the day I landed in Kuwait, which happened to be Christmas Day of all the
Uh-huh.
days of the world. Christmas Day, we landed in Kuwait, and they said, "Well, here we are," and it was 120 degrees in the shade. You're going
Yeah.
to either move or go. Um, and that was the prerequisite because we weren't actually at war at that time. We were just filling the
Okay.
gaps, getting ready because I was part of Desert Shield. So we were there in preparation for when the president says, okay, guys, we've done everything politically we can to resist this issue, and we're going to turn it over to you guys and have fun. Do what you got to do. Do your jobs.
Okay.
So
So,
that,
folks, we are talking with Ken Bentley, a Marine. who has experienced what boots on the ground really means, not like our former, Fox News reporter who is now the Secretary of Defense, but then he turns around and calls it the Department of War. Okay. I don't know about this guy. Okay, so let's not get into the politics of it, but if you have any questions, feel free to chime in. Okay, the number to call in is 773-763-9278. In the second hour, we'll be joined by Congresswoman Marie Newman with her segment, and then Maria Muzaffar, employment, not employment. Attorney Maria Muzaffar will be joining us with her segment of Breaking the Echo Chamber. But coming back to Ken, what stays with you the most after deployment?
Uh, Lost friends,
Oh boy, yeah. Oh boy.
lost companions that served their country well, didn't make it back. Those stay. The actions we have to do, and I implore to some of the people when you meet a veteran, the last question you ever want to ask them is, "Did you ever kill anybody?" Never ask that question. That's just not good because it brings back all those haunted memories that we're trying to bury all the time or keep in check or put in a cage. And, there's, sneaking up on a veteran. That's a bad idea because you don't know where their head's at, and next thing you know, they may not realize what's going on until it's too late and they react because our training is a little different than everybody else's.
And folks, never ever. I was telling my team
Reed
before
Bible's
we
on the
started,
on the
Ken,
phone.
who Reed is on the phone. Wonderful. Thank you, Dylan. But I was talking with our team before we started the show today, Ken, that never ever call a Marine as a former Marine. He'll take your head off. Okay. Once a Marine, always a Marine, right?
We're very passionate about who we are and what we represented and what we chose to do, whether it's soldier or Navy or what have you. But Marines, we stick that moniker and we keep it forever.
Okay.
So yeah, it's
So how did your experience change you as a person?
jaded, very
Jaded.
jaded. I'm very mindful of every action of every person that's around me, their thought processes, their actions. I watch everything. I'm always on guard because you don't know. You're always in that mindset of here, and you don't care about what's out here. You want to look. You're here. So yeah, it's kept me
So
quiet.
coming back on that same thought, Ken, what does deployment do to a family emotionally? What was the impact on your family?
Uh, on pins and needles, not knowing when they're going to get that phone call that hey, your son didn't make it, your daughter didn't make it, what have you. Um, I've had a chance to at least talk to my dad at least once while I
Mhm.
was over there, and his question was, "So where were you at? I know you can't tell me where you're at now, but where have you been?" And I'm like, "Well, your news feed's about 2 weeks delayed behind what we're actually doing." I said, "The barracks that got hit by the Scud." He goes, "Yeah." I said, "I was there the day before." He's like,
Oh,
"Oh." He's like,
wow.
"Okay, fair enough. I won't ask anymore." So he understood I'm in the middle of it, and he didn't want to go any further with it. So he understood the rules, but yeah, it tore on him. He supported whatever I wanted, and he understood that I had a mission to do, and that was the way it worked.
So, what was the hardest part now about being away from your loved ones for you personally?
Having that support right next to you, not just being a phone call away, because I actually even now I live 45 minutes from my family.
Mhm.
So, you can't always just pick up a phone and go, "Hey, what's going on today, Dad? You okay?" Have a conversation. It's like, no, I've got things to do, and my mind's over here focused on this idea, not them. So you have to take everything, put it in a box, put it over here in a corner, and leave it there, and know that hey, I'll get to this when I can, but right now I got to focus here. So yeah, you gotta learn how to segregate your system and box everything up because you can't worry about what's there. You got to worry about where you're at.
So we got Reed Bible and Mike Patino on the phone with us. So Reed is a retired special supervisory agent for the Department of Homeland Security. He's an immigration attorney and a former Will County board member also. So let me bring Reed into the conversation. Reed, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody, especially to Mr. Bentley. So good to have him on today.
Morning.
And, good morning, sir. Our country owes such a debt of gratitude to people like you who have served this country, especially the Marines. They're usually the first in and the first out. And you're all so deserving of our utmost respect. And unfortunately, that seems like it doesn't seem to register with our current president. Besides you, Mr. Bentley, another great Marine passed away a couple of days ago by the name of Robert Mueller. I think you may have heard of him. And our president actually said about him when hearing of his death, they said, quote, "Good, I'm glad he's dead." Now, this is a man who served in Vietnam as a Marine. He won a Purple Heart. He got the Bronze Star while in Vietnam. And yet, because Trump didn't like his investigation, he decided that he's just going to denigrate this very honorable man. How does that, do you think, how does that land on the ears of people like yourself who've also served and served honorably our country when a president can be so disrespectful of someone who served so honorably and went on to serve this country as the director of the FBI for many, many years during a time of another crisis, which was 9/11.
That's not cool. Don't get me wrong. I've never met Mr. Trump myself personally. I know he's a huge supporter of his troops. I will give him credit for that because his first 6 weeks in office, his first term, at least he had the intelligence to say our veterans deserve better care and they should be able to go to doctors they want to go to without regardless of where VA says to go. So with that being said, you don't a gentleman who's gotten the Purple Heart, the Bronze Star, he's a hero.
Yep.
He went above and beyond all line of duty to sacrifice himself, and now that's a huge disrespect to the military community. Period. I know a lot of Vietnam veterans, and I know present veterans that a friend of mine, he's got 3 Purple Hearts, could have had 5, but he just refused to turn them in because he's like, I got a job to do. I ain't got time to mess with this stuff. I'm not here for what's pinned on my chest. I'm here for a job. So you Marines are definitely a different breed. We're very hardcore. We're very fast. We're very straightforward about stuff. You want to ask a question of a Marine, be prepared for an answer you don't want to hear because we're going to be very honest and straightforward. And but yeah, I never heard that part. To be honest with you, I don't pay attention to the news anymore because it's just so degrading at most times. So I just
Well,
don't
that
pay
was
attention to the news.
just yesterday, Ken, that our president made that statement, and he had a smirk on his face. And when he was at Dover, for the transfer ceremony. He was trying to merchandise his golf course with a hat on. But let's not get into the politics of it. I wanted to talk about again the human cost. So, what was the transition like coming back home for you?
No support, zero support. We don't have anybody they train you to go to war. They train you to do these things. They train you how to kill. They train you how to take care of your weapons, how to do your jobs. And then when you get out, they're like, hey, here's your paperwork. Here's a little bit of money. Have a nice day. And off you go. And you got to figure it out yourself. So, yeah, we tend to, unfortunately, when I got out,
Uh-huh.
we didn't have the internet. We didn't have all this stuff. We didn't know how to network. We didn't, unless we knew somebody that knew somebody. Now you get the internet and guys are able to get more help today than they did when I got out. And in Vietnam, it was even worse because they got spit on when they came home. They got stuff thrown at them. So they were disrespected. So, and they were just there to do a job. They didn't ask to go. Most of them were forced to go. So
And
how do
you
you
know
rate
what,
that?
Ken? I mean, we were talking about it yesterday on the phone also. Folks, when these veterans, they come back after putting their life on the line for us so that we can have our freedoms over here. They go to Great Lakes Naval Base over here in the Chicagoland area for like about a couple of weeks for some training on how to get a job. Okay. Then they are thrown out like garbage. And when I was working with the Department of Employment Security at Illinois WorkNet, I put together some programs for returning veterans and to get them, productive employment in manufacturing. And it was so sad, Ken, to actually hear a Marine coming up to me and saying, "Thank you, sir, for your help. I had no idea what I was going to do. When I come back, I thought I was going to be a janitor." That broke
Mm.
my heart. And it is a it is on record over here, Sheila, because when I did a workshop like that for returning Marines, Crane Chicago Business actually sent a reporter, and there is a video report on that. I think it's about 15, 16 years old now, but I can dig that out for you to see what the Marines were thinking about what happens to you when you come back. So, do you feel supported by the system and by society? Ken, I mean, I think you already answered that, but what are the some of the invisible changes or challenges that veterans face that people don't see?
The mental side of it. You never see the anguish with we go through that, what we saw, what we had to do, we had to do stuff at the spur of the moment, and taking a life is not a funny thing. It's never humorous. No, Hollywood likes to play it up like it's cool, and
Hmm.
it's not. It is exact opposite. It has a cost, and mentally you're still there. I know a lot of guys in Vietnam that came back. They're still there. They never came home. They literally never came back to the U.S. They've been there forever, and even today. So yeah, I had a buddy of mine who was a Vietnam vet. Unfortunately, he passed away a long time ago. But he had a quiet room in his house. He built an entire room that was completely soundproof for the 2 weeks of Fourth of July. He would pigeonhole
Oh
himself
boy.
down there, and he would stay there because he couldn't handle fireworks. It was just he couldn't do it. That's how he dealt with it. He just went in there and he grabbed a bunch of beer and stocked up his fridge and stayed drunk for about 2 weeks and said, "I'll deal with it that way." And that's how he hid. So yeah, that's a lot of guys, and unfortunately, a lot of military, not just Marines alone, but a lot of military, they turn to that route. How to numb that, how to numb yourself, and that's
So,
what you
Ken,
got to do.
usually at this point, Reed and I have a session together, but feeling that now that Reed is not on the uh, radio with us, but he's on the phone on the radio. So, do you mind continuing the conversation for a few more minutes, 15, 20 minutes, or do you have anywhere
No,
to go?
no, no.
Thank
I'm
you
just
so much. Thank you
you're
so
welcome
much. So
anytime. I got all day.
let me see if Dr. White has any questions for you. Sheila, do you have a question for Ken?
Yeah, I do. When you talk about the human cost of war and, military having seconds to respond, I don't think that civilians really understand the impact of what you all are under. What is the thing that you want the civilians, even in this present war that we're in right now with the Israeli war and US, what do you want civilians to understand? Because you guys go in there, you're obeying the commands. If Congress says yes or no, what's going on now, you're still going to do what you feel to do because it's your job, as you said. So, what do you want civilians to understand on both sides of this thing? You have to do what you have to do according to your commander in chief, but at the same time, if everybody's not for this, you're kind of in the middle, but you have to do a job. So what do you want civilians to understand in this whole war that's happening right now?
Kind of the best way to relay it to civilians is when your dad came home and told you to go clean your room. What did you do? You went and cleaned your room. Whether you liked it or not, you did your job. You did what you were told to do. That's exactly what the military's like. It's just like your dad walking up going, "I want you to go do this. I want this, 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 and this, and I want it done." And you don't question your dad. You don't question your mother. God forbid if you question your mom, because you know what happens then. The frying pan, the flippers come out, and the whole 9 yards. So you do what you're told. You in the back of your head, you may have that discussion. You may have a discussion between your peers, but you never voice it above that route. You don't go above your chain of
Mm.
command, and you don't go up to your staff sergeant or CO going, "Hey, I'm not doing this. I don't like this." Oh, you'll be in the brig. You got to do what you got to do, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's the mindset. What they don't understand is once you go into the military into boot camp, they break you down. They make you feel like you're nothing and
Hmm.
make you form as a team. And the Marine Corps is this way. And I'm not sure about the Army or the Navy, so they're a little different in how they do things. But the Marine Corps, they break you down and make you understand that no matter who's in that group, you all pay the price for what somebody does wrong. So it's a
Yeah.
joint effort. It's team. You have a team. So just like you're the nucleus of your family. You have children. Well, they rely on you to make the decisions. But if something was going wrong with you, what do? They form a circle around you and they protect
Yeah.
you. Same thing in the military. It's just like a big family. It's just different. You're just all
Yeah.
different colors, creeds, and religions, what have you. We don't care. Nobody,
Yeah.
and in the military, the religion doesn't matter, because the old rule is that you get into a foxhole and you're in war, you're praying to a god. They don't care which one you're praying to, but you will be praying to one of them. And
So
Mm.
Ken,
nobody says the Lord's word. Please,
did
sorry.
did you did you ever question the mission or the purpose of the conflict while you were there?
Nope, nope.
Mm.
So,
Wasn't my job.
yeah, how important is it though for troops to understand why they are fighting?
Mm.
Our question answered because we're always told you don't question. You do.
Mm.
If you have an issue, you bring it up properly. You go through your chain of command. Son goes to dad, dad goes to mom, mom goes to grandma, and so on and so forth. That you want to look at chain of command that way through family.
Okay.
If we have an issue with an order, we feel it's not right. They say you have issues with this. 9 times out of 10, you don't have a choice. You just go, and your feelings and your personal opinions of what the conflict is, or whether it was Iraq or Afghanistan or the present
Situation, yep.
mess we're in, the present mess we're in.
Mhm.
I haven't heard, and I'm not trying to correct anybody here. I have yet to hear the word "we're at war." All I've heard is we are at what we
Yeah.
consider a police action. We're there to
Yep.
do a job, and they haven't declared war just yet. Now that's just what I've been hearing. I don't know for certain, but and I'm not trying to correct anybody by no means. So please don't think that as an insult. But yeah, the military is a different monster. You follow your orders, you follow your chain of command, and if you have issues, you bring it up properly, but you do it discreetly because there's always flack.
So is there any kind of mental health awareness available while you are there, Ken, or is it after you come back? But on the field, on the ground over there, do you have any mental health specialist that you could speak to if you feel overburdened?
When I was in, we did not. We didn't. We had access to our chaplain, what have you. There's always chaplain with with the group that you're with. Where there's always a chaplain around of
Hmm.
sorts. Whether they're whatever. Usually they're non-denominational. Technically, I mean not always, but
Yeah.
generally they're non-denominational. They may be Catholic, but they say, "Hey, I listen to everybody, whether regardless of how you preach or pray." Um, can talk to them, but um, most you know most of your military won't seek it out unless it's absolutely like it's just crushing them. So
Let me see if Mike has any questions for you. Mike, are you still on with us?
Yes, I sure am. Good morning, Ken. Thanks so much for coming on the show. You really touched me when you talked about your friends dying in battle. And I was around for the Vietnam War. Luckily, I had a high draft number, so I didn't get to go over there. But I had quite a few good friends die over there in Vietnam. And I was totally against the war. And I just wondered if how you feel about are you compelled at all to do anything to stop what's going on over there, or is that a discussion that you're having with any of your veterans?
Um, believe it or not, a lot of us veterans are saying they're actually a lot of us are like, hey, why don't you just send us instead of ruin another life, instead of ruin another young person. I'm of the mindset I'm the same way. I would go today again if they took me back just to save a young man or a young woman, whichever, to have to go through it. I would do it in a heartbeat because I've already been there. I already know what to expect. And now I can't stop an action that's there. I mean, whether I believe in it or not, it's not my purpose. There's obviously things we're not told. There's always certain things in conversations that doesn't get to our level, as far as the public is concerned, because there may be some other underlying issues that are going on that they have to maintain some level of secrecy.
Right.
Though we may think they're hiding something, there may be something going on in the background that we don't fully understand, and that changes the outlook of what's going on. Whether you support war or don't, I don't have a problem with people like that. If you don't support it, I get it. If you support it, I get it. It's a personal choice. For me, it is what it is. I mean, I'll be there for those young men and women, and they come back. I ride with the American Legion Riders here out of Plainfield, Illinois, and we do escorts for them to go to deployment or to their final resting place. And we get on our bikes, we go to the funeral, we go to where the body's retrieved. And I've been to Midway. My first mission was with a World War II veteran who was actually MIA for 80 years. He died in the first 30 days of World War II in France. Got lost in transaction. They finally brought him up and did DNA testing and found his family, which happened to be not more than 30 minutes from my house. So we went up there and retrieved the remains, escorted all the way to Wilmington, and then the school district, the funeral home, and the Patriot Guard on top of it all had given the school lesson plans about the war and what took place and what this gentleman did, what he sacrificed for. And when we went to get him at the funeral home after the services were done, we escorted the vehicle through the entire town, and every person and every child had a flag and their hand over their heart all the way through town.
Ken,
That's great.
this is one of the most gut-wrenching episodes of the lightning strikes that we have done. Right, Sheila?
Yes, it is. It's just so hard to fathom. It's still happening. War is still happening after all we've gone through, after all we've learned, thousands of lives lost. And I know in the military, when you're next to your buddies, they're going through anguish. How do you support them, even though you have to do what you're told? Can you support them and can you comfort them in the situation of, man, it's going to be okay? I mean, how does that affect you? How did you deal with that?
Focus. You focus on the moment. Don't focus on the bigger issues. You focus on the moment, because at the moment, this is what you need to. Eckhart Tolle wrote a book about being the now.
Yeah.
Unusual author, but I read his book and it's actually very good about stuff. But what it focuses on, and the basic message is, you focus on the very moment you're in. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about yesterday. Don't worry about what you're going to do in the next 20 minutes. You worry about what you're doing right now. And the best way to do it is you get your team, because I was a squad leader, and I grab my team and I go, look, this is what we got to do, guys. Let's get it here. Get your head in the game. Let's focus on what we're doing. Don't worry about what we're going to, what's chow going to be like. Hey, can we get a beer later? No, we ain't worried about that. We got to worry about getting everybody home. Don't care about the rest of it. Let's get through this and then go on to the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. It's continuous. Yeah, you coach while you talk, and you're coaching yourself at the same time. You're talking yourself through the problem, so you're trying to relax yourself and show them, hey, I'm in control. So you have to maintain a higher level of presence for yourself to let them know, I'm not. We're all afraid. If you don't fear death, there's something really wrong with you. But
let's see if Chris has any questions for you. And Chris is joining us from Texas, Ulysses, Texas. What is
Yeah, it's
Euless?
pronounced Euless. Yeah,
Euless, Texas.
Euless, Texas. Or if you're local, it's sometimes called useless. But
Okay.
I've actually heard of that town, believe it or not.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's pretty
Okay.
amazing, Ken.
Well,
Um,
when I was in Texas, Chris, I lived in Baytown for a while, and right next to Baytown is a town called Pasadena, where most of the
right.
oil refineries are, and we used to call it Stinkadena.
I like that. I had not heard that one.
Okay.
Good one.
So
Uh,
from useless in Texas, have you got any questions for Chris? This is such a
yeah,
wonderful, awesome conversation we're having this morning on
yeah,
American
it
Strike
is.
Force.
I'm going to kind of switch it a little bit in a slightly different direction, because I was raised military in dependent. My dad was career Army, and so from 0 to 18, I was a dependent, and so my dad was deployed to Korea, Vietnam twice. He was in communications, so he was TDY a lot. And so the what I was wondering is, do you have any advice for the wives and the children that could help them understand when their parent comes back or their spouse comes back? I remember my dad coming back one time, and we were so excited to see him, and he was so angry and just told us to leave him alone. And as you can tell, it's still kind of, even 60 years later, it's still a little bit heartbreaking to me, because I was like 7 at the time. Um, but I've never had an opportunity to ask anybody. And my dad, you ask him stuff about his coming back from being deployed overseas to Vietnam or Korea, and he's like, I don't want to talk about it. It's
No,
over. So if you have any words of wisdom for us, even though we're now pushing 70, that it might help other people that are not pushing 70 as well. And so I was just curious about what you could do to help the dependents in any way, some sort of words of wisdom,
I would say on a personal level, patience.
patience. Okay.
Patience and patience, because you have to understand we're put in a situation where we don't have a life alert button. We don't have someone to come and, we don't have a button there, hey, I've fallen, I can't get up type thing. It's
Right.
we're it. And we're under that stressor 24/7 for the entire duration we're there. And that stress takes its toll. And the things we see and had to do, we will never discuss. I've known Vietnam veterans who still to this very day will not discuss what they did, or Korea, or World War II, or any of the other occupations we were involved in.
Right.
They won't talk about it. And why? Because they don't want to revisit the problem. They won't revisit the memories. So the best thing I could say is be patient, be supportive as the best you can, and try to see if there's a way you can help them without pushing,
Right.
so to speak. Kind of like a little nudge or a little hint, or don't do a surprise intervention, because it just might go
Oh no.
south. And I'm saying, that, I mean, there's ways to do things without um, pushing the envelope. Sometimes maybe it's just bringing an old friend of his by, or find some of their buddies and say, hey, let's do a big picnic and get the boys together and their families and see how they interact. Because you're going to notice all the families going to be on one side of the yard, and those men are going to be on the other side of the yard, and they're going to just come together, and they're going to have their own conversations, and they're paying attention to everything that's going on around them, but they're focused on their buddies. And you want to see them light up a little bit. That's a great way to do things, because then it shows that you care enough to go, hey, I found all your buddies. I want to have a big picnic or what have you. But whether if they're religious, have the pastor come by once in a while and do a check, or have one of the guys from the VFW or the American Legion or what have you come by and do a buddy check. Hey, how you doing? Are you okay? Is there anything you want to talk about? It's just two guys, or what have you, or it's two women. Because we have females that are
Right.
there, that are the occupation zones, and they go through things too. It's not just the men, so we have to be mindful that not only the men are being inundated with this stuff, but you have a lot of the women that are there for support.
Right.
Sometimes they're not on the front lines, but they are a part of they are part of what's going on, and they deserve the same respect we do. It ain't all about the men. It's the ladies have a right to have the same
Mhm.
support we do, and
Mhm.
maybe sometimes more,
Ken,
because
we
they're
are we are coming up to the top of the hour, and we'll be
Thank
taking a
you.
station break at 9 o'clock. But we can continue the conversation during the break. We are live on Facebook, and we are being heard all over the world right now as we speak, because we are also live on the internet on the WCPT Heartland Signal website. So a lot of people are listening to this conversation. I want to bring in Brendan, who has just joined us, uh, and he is, in the age where if there is a draft like that calling about, Brendan, you might be getting up to the front lines, man. If there's a draft, so what do you think about what is happening, Brendan?
Thank you for asking my opinion. I really think one thing from just reading the news and also from, I have a friend right now who's serving in the Navy is I think we need to put a lot more weight on the human cost of certain things. And I think that's one thing that you've done a really good job of explaining, Mohammed. And I like the way that you explained it. And I think you explained it perfectly is how boots on the ground, there's families attached to that. There's loved ones, there's friends, there's, you know, stuff isn't just numbers, stuff isn't just strategy. There's absolutely a human cost to it. And I think that's something that people who make decisions need to be aware of when making those decisions. And there's also the long-term impacts of conflicts on people who've served, as we've seen from past wars and past conflicts.
So,
Mhm.
thank you for that, Brendan. Ken, I want to ask you every time and every year we have Memorial Day, right? And people don't really understand what
The
it means.
preceding
So,
program, The
what does
Lightning Strike, was
honoring service
sponsored
truly
by
mean
Mohammed Faheem. And to the
beyond
extent
words and ceremonies?
sorry, your automated system cut into what you're saying.
Okay, so what does honoring service truly mean beyond words and ceremonies?
Taking a moment to show respect for those who paid the ultimate price.
I
To
know that in Plainfield we do a good job of it. I've been to every memorial service in front of the village hall. And Sheila, you're talking about something that is happening in Crest Hill or Joliet with a
Yes.
memorial museum. What was that?
Yes, every year, the mayor of Crest Hill, they have all the soldiers come together from World War One, World War Two, Korean, all of the wars. And they gather together. They're in their uniforms, and they do a salute. They honor the families. They give flowers. It's a phenomenal ceremony that takes place on Memorial Day, and they do the gun salute. The guns go off and things, and it just brings you back to a place in time because all of these soldiers they come out in their uniforms and most of them are seniors, women and men, and they're able to share their stories of the mass destruction, the effects that it has on them now, the lives that they're living. Some of them have been injured, so they're in wheelchairs. They're so It's so riveting just to hear and to see them and to still see their loyalty, not only to each other, but just to the country. And it's a beautiful thing to see. And they have, music, they have a band come out and things, and they go to the Abraham Lincoln cemetery and they do a ceremony there. Then they come back to Crest Hill, and these are ceremonies that are performed all over, I know, on Memorial Day, but it's just something that I think civilians should see, recognize, and be able to participate in, because a lot of these families, like Chris said, they're still traumatized years later after that. And what surprises me most is that a lot of them still don't feel the support after 50 years, after 40 years, after 70 years. Some of them are almost 100 years old. We have people, and they still don't feel the support of the service that they gave, but they're honored to have served. And so for men and women all over the world, we salute you. And it's one of these things that I think, Muhammad, this is the most important show that we've had in 3 years, because it's very gut wrenching. And you can still, from your story, Ken, just talking about it, it just rips us apart, because we're still in the throes of mass cities being destroyed and lives being changed forever. And young people don't realize what they're going into. They go in with bright eyes and bushy tail, I'm going to serve my country, and they come out changed forever. And so I think hearing your story, sharing your story is something so important that we need to keep a pulse on what's happening and help people to realize that this is something that is going to change our lives forever, no matter how long it goes. Whether they say war or not, bombs are dropping, lives are being changed, cities are being disrupted. And it's something that we need to pay more attention to, I think. So thank you so much, Ken, for sharing and being truthful and transparent, because that's what we need to know about what's really happening and what has happened.
Yep, this has been again a gut-wrenching experience, and
Yeah.
you know, a conversation today, Ken. And thank you so much for joining us at short notice also. And we will continue to highlight this thing and in the upcoming shows, as long as you know, we want people to understand the human cost of war. Ken,
Yeah.
before we go back live on the air, I've got a question. What do you want policymakers in Washington to understand before sending troops into conflict?
Mm.
Well, unfortunately for me, because I'm a little biased about the opinion,
Mhm.
Congress doesn't have to know everything.
Okay,
They're there to represent our interests
right.
as civilians, not their personal agendas, not their personal attacks, not their attacks on the president or anybody else, to support and understand what's going on. And I would like to hear them at least acknowledge the fact that, hey, we need to address issues, but let's not make it in a personal attack. And what is this going to do for our constituents? What is this going to do for our people? How can we help our people understand what's really going on and not make a mockery of what's actually taking place? Because what they don't understand, and some folks don't understand the chain of command. You're going to hear that a lot. You're going to hear. I heard it the other day, and a congresswoman, she just did not understand why she wasn't being told, you're not in the chain of command.
Hmm.
Military is a different entity. It's a different monster. It's just like being a nurse. You have a chain of command as a nurse. You go to the doctor goes to the surgeon, so on and so on and so on. If you're a police officer, same thing. You're a fireman, same thing. You're a teacher, same thing. You have a chain of command. You don't walk around it. You walk through it. You don't jump the chain of command going, hey, I'm not going to talk to my supervisor. I'm going to go right to the manager and yank their chain for about 20 minutes. You you have to understand the chain of command, and it doesn't always have to include you, what you believe, and sometimes it'll fall on deaf ears. As far as Memorial Day is concerned, just show some compassion.
So,
Just
Ken,
show
we'll
compassion.
be coming back live on the air in about 30 seconds. Uh, do you think the human cost is fully considered when these decisions are made to put boots on the ground?
Yep, 110%. They know exactly what they're going to achieve. They know a rough estimate of what casualties are going to look like, whether they're uh, casualties of war, as they're termed as. It's unfortunate that you have those that are innocents that are caught up in the action, that because we don't always have the best intelligence. We may not have it all. We may not know that there's a family living in the basement of that building we're about to go into. Until we get there, and all of a sudden, why didn't anybody tell us that? Oh, well, oops, sorry. Oops, don't
Okay.
cut it.
Well, folks, we are talking with Ken Bentley, and we are talking about the human cost of war. Ken is a Marine who has served our country for 9 years in different conflicts overseas, and this has been one of the most uh, I would say, gut-wrenching conversations that we have ever had on the lightning strike, like Dr. White was saying, in 3 years that we have been on the air. And thank you so much, Ken. Thank you very much for, again, not just your service, but for joining us and sharing what you have shared with us today. This has been phenomenal, and we will definitely want more people to know about what is happening in the coming weeks. We will be continuing these conversations. And final question before I let you go, Ken. Looking back, what do you believe is the true cost of war is?
Always going to be a human life, no matter what. It's going to be whether it's mental or it's all. As the old phrase for Vietnam, some gave all, and all gave some gave all. And it's the truth because everybody gives something. You go into war, you go into military, even in Cold War, you still gave something. You still changed you because you didn't know if you were going or not. But once you go, yeah, you gave something. It changes you tremendously. It changes
Thank
your
you.
attitude. It changes your personality. It changes. Even my dad noticed it. I came home and was doing some stuff around the house, and he finally goes, "Son, can I tell you something?" I go, "First off, are you okay? Let's ask that question." Well, I'm fine. He goes, "You're actually nuts." I'm like, "Oh, well, yeah, that's kind of part of the game, Dad. You just don't worry about yourself. You do what you got to do." And I did EMT work for a while, and those guys are like, "How do you do it?" And I'm like, "Because it's not about me. It's about somebody else." And we always worry about those guys or the young ladies that are there. Maybe they're in support for our missions. We worry about them. We worry about you at home. We want to make sure that when we come back, we've done our jobs. Excuse me, we've done our jobs. So yeah, we worry about everything, but we put it in boxes and address it when we need to. But yeah, we always worry. We just do it differently. We just have a different mindset than how we do things. As a father, you look at your children when they get hurt. You put on the good face, to show that, hey, it's not that bad. And mom's over there freaking in the corner, but you're standing there all stoic. Well, it's sometimes you have to be that way. Sometimes it's the opposite. Mom's all stoic and, oh, it's okay. Here, let me do this to mom spit cleans everything, and a good kiss on the boo boo and it solves all your problems. Same thing. It's the same mindset. It's just a different way of doing it, but you're doing the same things we do. We just do it at a different level of height, of awareness. So
Well, let me bring in Congresswoman Marie Newman and Maria Muzaffar, our legislative attorney, into the conversation. And we will continue the rest of the program in about 2 minutes. Marie, and Maria, it has been a gut-wrenching conversation with Ken today. I don't know if you guys were able to listen in on the radio before you joined us. Uh, it is, again, the human cost of war. That's what I wanted to focus on. And Ken really put it in perspective for us. And have you got any questions for Ken before we let him go, Marie?
Ken, so so touching to hear how your dad responded to, "Are you okay?" Meaning that you're used to taking care of everybody else, but are you okay? Um, did you do anything specifically in that moment? Did you have like a really like lightning bulb moment where you're like, "Oh gosh, this specific thing is really bad"?
no, to me it was normal behavior. Our my mindset as far as military is concerned, we don't focus on what we just did. We focus
Yeah,
on what we just accomplished.
yeah.
And do we get it done? No matter what we did. Oh, wait, I lost a hand. Okay, well, did it get done? Did I save his
The
life? Did I
mission, the
did I
mission.
do this or do that? We don't focus on us. We focus on, did we accomplish the mission? And
And
my dad was like that. He's like, you're just crazy. I'm like, well, yeah, there's that part of it. That's life.
That that's not crazy, and we do appreciate you. And I'll just point out and close and give it back to Mohammed in a second, but I'll just draw the parallel there is that men like you and literally millions of you have done the same for our country, and our leaders are not understanding or discerning that, and then most Americans don't understand or discern it as well. So thank you for drawing that line.
Well, we have Steve from the Gold Coast calling in, and let's see what Steve has a comment on the conflict that's going on. Steve, good morning. You're on the Lightning Strike with Mohammed Faheem and our team. Let's see if we can get to hear Steve. Dylan, if you could please connect Steve with the conversation. Okay, while we are waiting for Steve to join us, let's bring Maria in. Maria, you have any questions for Ken before we
Yes,
let him go?
yes. First of all, thank you, Ken, for your service. I wanted to ask you, I don't know if you touched upon this, if there's been any backlash among the military community as you talk about the human cost of war and educating Americans.
Define backlash, if you don't mind, please. It's kind of a hard question to answer. A little
I've
more
seen,
definition.
yeah, I've seen so many soldiers that come back from war and they actually take the mic and they talk about the human cost of war. And they also talk about what they saw and wish they didn't see, and some of the things that they had to do, wish they didn't have to do. For example, what you described about having kids or a family in the basement, right? Being part of the process, and you didn't foresee that. And sometimes these people get backlash of, you're being somebody that is being unpatriotic. And so I want to know if there's any friction there and how you've resolved in discussing those issues with that backdrop.
Hello? Hello?
Oh, Steve's there. Can we answer her question first, Steve?
Yes, let's
Yeah.
get Maria's question, and then we'll bring Steve from the Gold Coast on. And
Yeah.
we are almost running out of time on this segment. So go ahead, Ken.
So it's kind of a big question. And there's a lot of, it's like a cake. It's a lot of layers to
Mm.
dissect, because we see a lot of different avenues of what's going on in life, and we're taught one thing: you pick a problem and you solve that one first. So it's kind of hard to, for the young men and women who are serving our country or may about want to wish to, or in some cases maybe in Brendan's factor that he may be part of a draft. you know God forbid if it happens. I don't wish it upon him. There are a lot of things we saw correct, and in this day and age we have more facilities and more abilities to take care of that. When I was in, and a lot of my buddies were in, and some of the guys in Vietnam or World War II, what have you, they didn't have that feature. Today we do. And the best way we can do it is try to teach them how to handle the situation. Just like you may have not seen it, but you hear about it. But when you're there in reality, it is a different reality. It's a different painting. Hollywood likes to dress everything pretty and cool and all these effects. It ain't that way. It's far worse than that. There's more. There's the smells. There's the taste. Not just the visual effects. It's everything, and you're in it. And um,
Mm.
it's like a young lady who gave birth. She's in it. She's the feelings, the overwhelming emotions, and the father just standing there going, "Cool, got a kid." Hey, look at this. To me, that was beautiful. And I watched my daughters get born, and I had an anesthesiologist stand there going, "Yeah, this guy's going to pass on." I'm like, "No one's sitting the floor here but you. If you come near me, this is a thing of beauty. I've seen war. I've seen people with their innards hanging out, the whole 9 yards. I get it, but you don't focus on what you saw until afterwards, and it could be
Okay.
years. You boxed it up, so if, as a young lady, if, something happens to you, or a human being, period, not just a woman, you go through something traumatic. What do? You black it out. You totally forget it. Your brain will override and throw it away automatically because it's a traumatic issue, and your brain will automatically just kind of like black over it until years later, and all of a sudden a smell, a
Yep.
taste, a phrase, a sound, and you're right there. That flashback is right in the forefront of your head. Maybe you were in a car accident and it was somewhat traumatic to you. It was a fender bender, nothing serious, nobody was really hurt, but to you it was traumatic because it was all of a sudden. What do? Well, first you're in shock, but after a while you're in fear, and then all of a sudden your body goes, you know what, I got to get going, I got to move. you
Right.
know can't stay stuck. So I hope it kind of answers your question. I know the question is very diverse because there's a lot of
Yep.
angles to take with it. Not to say it's
Ken,
not the
I would
blow.
like to bring you back for another session down in the next upcoming weeks. But
Sure.
let's take Steve's question, and then we will, go on with the rest of the program for today. Steve, you're on the air with the lightning strike. Have you got a comment?
Yes, I wanted to make a few points, and I would agree. I think that we get a sanitized view of war. We're going to go to war. We send men and women into war, and then when the war is done, that's it. Everything is over. The reality is that in a modern society, we try to inculcate into young people the notion that violence isn't the answer, and that's the way we socialize them. But in order to have an effective military, once you join the military, you have to unteach that. You have to teach people how to be violent and how to be willing to kill. And then all of a sudden, if they survive, they come back to civilization. Many of them are traumatized physically and mentally, emotionally, and so forth, but they still carry that with them. And so when we talk about going to war, especially about putting boots on the ground somewhere, it's a exponentially more costly thing than simply what, again, as pop culture depicts it in movies and television and so forth, where you go to war and the person comes home and they just resume their life, they go back to work, and everything is hunky-dory. Well, that's not the way it works. It costs huge amounts of resources in order to keep those people functioning in society. And there's a reason why so many people who are veterans commit suicide or they go on to hurt other people, because you can't just simply sweep away that kind of trauma. So before we simply jump into another conflict, and Americans, to our credit, given the popularity of this last incursion relative to Iran, we are not in a position to say we want to go to war, certainly not boots on the ground. We are still trying to recover from what happened in Iraq, from what happened in Syria, from what happened in Afghanistan. Americans do not have a taste for that, but yet we have an administration that threatens to plunge us into another such conflict.
Well, Steve, thank you so much. I don't know if you've been listening to the entire conversation with Ken today. It's been gut-wrenching to really hear it from a person who's been there, done that, and like Ken was saying, has smelled and tasted what boots on the ground really mean. Ken, again, thank you so much for joining us, and we will definitely come back to you for more conversations later on in the month. And appreciate your service. I know it sounds so empty when I say thank you for your service. Now we know what that service really meant for you on a personal level.
It's
And
never it's never empty when you pray, when you say thank you. It's never empty. We get it. We just don't know how to respond. It's not that we don't care. It's just we're like, but we didn't do it for us. We did it for you, and hopefully that impacted it. You walk away from any of this, you walk away going, there are people that are willing to die for my cause, for my beliefs, my religion, or political alignment, or whatever it is that you have, and understand that these men and women that go there and do this have no problem with it. They voluntarily walk in the door going, I know what I'm about to do, and I'm signing a blank check with my life on the line to support that.
well, thank you, Ken. And let's continue the conversation with Murray. Murray, good morning. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you for letting us, get a little bit into your segment
Oh,
of the conversation. But this was a very important conversation with Ken.
really important conversation. And I'm very glad that you went a little bit longer because I really wanted to hear from him. So we appreciate our guest today tremendously. And Mohammed, thank you for coordinating that. When you hear it in the most real of terms, because none of us can imagine if you don't have that lived experience. So offering that lived experience is really critical for our listeners and everybody. But really hard to make a hard turn here, but I guess we have to. So
Yes.
with that, we'll turn to Ignore at Your Risk. Good morning.